going on, everybody? Just want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Gonna start regularly trying to put out some archery videos. So yeah, this is the first video on my channel. What better way to start it off than doing a little bit of a bow build? So it's a blizzard today. It's like negative 10 degrees, wind is blowing, drifted snow. There's probably 12 inches of snow out there, so figured I'd come into the shop, bundle up, turn my heater on, and start building a bow. So today we're gonna be building a Mathews 2024 lift. Picked one up a couple weeks ago, actually, and want to give Little Missouri Archery shout out. The guy's awesome. I messaged him on Instagram and told him I was looking for a bow, wanted a Mathews lift, and was on my way to a 3D shoot, and he met me there, brought the bow. Super easy, hassle-free, great guy, great shop. Really appreciate it. If you ever get to talk to Jacob over there, their shop's over north of Jamestown, I believe, a few miles. So awesome little archery shop. They're Mathews dealers, so if you're ever in the area, you ever need anything, check them out, Little Missouri Archery. So we're gonna rep them. Thank you, Jacob. As for the bow, didn't really know what color to get this year, so might as well get the new one, I guess. So we got that new color from Mathews. Looks pretty sweet. I actually only shot this bow. I actually shot it in a different shop about a handful of times, 5 or 6 times. I ran a couple arrows through it, and but outside of that, I don't have any prior experience with it, so I'm pretty excited to get this one set up and see how it goes. So we'll start getting it in the vise here and take you along, show you some of the things I do to set up a hunting bow from start to finish. So when I set up a hunting bow, I kind of start in the middle of the bow and I work my way out. And so the first thing that I'm really concerned about is the rest. In my opinion, the rest is probably where a lot of people get it wrong. And if you're running into issues or anything like that with a bow tuning or a bow shooting, it generally starts with the rest and the timing. So I start from the center here, and then I'll slowly work my way out from the bow and start working on different parts of the bow. After I work on the rest and get that perfect with the D-loop tied, then I'll probably go to the sight, and then after I get the sight installed and get it where I like it, then I'll move to stabilizers. And I actually don't have a quiver right now, so I don't have to worry about that. But and then from there, I usually work on timing and peak height. So start with all that. But right now, I'm just getting ready to install the rest. So we'll get that ready to go, and then I'll bring you back in when we are starting on that. So all right, so the rest I'm shooting, I've shot it for a couple of years now, is the Hamskea Epsilon. Great fall away rest. Had zero issues with it, and the reason I shoot almost exclusively a lot of Hamskea products is just because I've never had any issues with them, and they're bulletproof. This rest, I have really actually beat it up pretty bad, and it's never caused me any issues. They're just a touch heavier than probably the other fall away rests on the market. So that's probably the only thing that you can maybe complain about with it. But other than that, they are bulletproof. So I always start, I just attach the rest, run it center of the burger, and get it nice and secure. And then from there, I work on the draw cord and getting the rest timing down. So I'll pause the video just really quick and show you kind of how I tie that in. So okay, so got the rest on the bow in the center. I want to talk a little bit about how I tie my rest in for the draw cord. And I do mine a little different, but it works extremely well and it never moves, which is the most important part to me. So how I started off is I actually go to the hardware store and I buy some Velcro strips. And you gotta see, they look just like that. So I buy strips of Velcro. And what I do is I take a strip and I will take it out of the package, cut it in half, and then I'll put it, I actually measure about 2.5 inches from this axle on the bottom, and I'll come about 2.5 inches and I'll put my strips of Velcro right there. I just cut them in half because that dampener is right there. You can see it runs through there. So I just cut it in half so that way it sticks fully to the limb. And that way I know that my limb cord is never going to move on the limb, which can affect your timing on the rest. That's the number one probably issue that you might have on a limb driven rest like that, is that limb cord moving around on you. So once I get the Velcro secured onto the limb, then what I do is I take a piece of loop material, and it's a pretty long piece. I just start with a long piece and I tie a loop knot. It's just a little loop on the very end of a strip of D-loop material. And I'll burn the one end, a little tag end. I'll just burn it and leave a little slack there. And I can go back and tighten that if I want. But so I just tie a little loop knot in there. And then what I do is I will probably zoom in and show you. But basically what I'll do is I'll thread this loop through itself on the Velcro. And so what that looks like is, I'll zoom in on it. I'll get it started and I'll zoom in on it. And that way I know it will never go anywhere that I don't want it to go. Just like that. So I'm just gonna put that up so it stays like that. So I'm gonna grab the camera and I'll zoom in on that for you. But basically what you end up with is something like that. And so you can see that cord runs up to my rest. The loop is threaded through itself. And yeah, it never goes anywhere, especially when I tighten this down. I'll reef on it quite a bit, get it nice and tight. And that way I know that my rest cord is never gonna go anywhere. I don't have to rely on a knot or anything like that. It's literally every time this rest shoots, or every time I shoot the bow, it'll tighten against itself. So it's a pretty easy system. It saves you the headache from trying to tie a super complicated knot on a limb, which is really hard. So I just tie a loop knot, loop it around itself, and then loop it back through another time. And that's what it'll look like. And then it runs, I don't know if you can see that, but it runs on the outside of the limb. And that ugly knot is sucked in on the bottom half of the limb, so you don't really ever see it. So the next step is once you get that cord secured onto the limb, you want to work on the rebound dampener, which is that black rubber piece. Hamskea uses that as a new system for making sure that there's no timing issues or anything like that, and it builds a little bit of forgiveness in the draw cord, makes it a little easier so it's not pulling so hard on your rest. So braid that through. One thing that I see a lot of is people will run this rebound dampener way up the draw cord. And you just simply don't need to do that. You want it as close to the limb as possible. So that way there's no buzzing or anything like that when you shoot the bow. When you run this rebound dampener way up the draw cord, what happens is you end up getting a little bit more vibration, a little bit more sound. The bow is noticeably louder when you shoot a draw cord with a rebound dampener that's way up the rest cord towards the rest. So get that rebound dampener as tight to the limb as you can. You can see I've got mine really tight. I like it right on the limb. That way the bow stays really, really quiet, and there's no vibration or feedback or anything like that coming from the bow. So that's one thing that I see a lot of people make mistakes on when they're tying in a Hansky rest with the rebound dampener. Is they tie the rebound dampener, they'll thread it in way up towards the top of the rest or way up in the middle here. You want it as tight to the limb as you can so that there's no added vibration to the bow. All right, so from here, we're almost done with the rest. Basically what we're gonna do now is just finish off the rest and tie in our little secure spot here, and then we're gonna cinch this rest. All right, so once we get the rest installed with the rebound dampener and then up to the housing here on the rest, we're gonna thread it through. It comes with a little wing nut piece. We thread our tag end through, tighten that Allen key down, and then you really want to cinch down on this draw cord as much as you can and take up all the slack out of that. It really helps with any kind of timing issues that you might have, and it keeps that launcher blade on the rest down. So that's it, we're done with that. I always cut this little tag end right here and then I'll tie a knot, so that way if I do need to tighten it later, because as you shoot it, it'll loosen a little bit, just kind of natural part of shooting a fall away rest, and grab onto that, pull it, tighten it down a little bit more. So I'm done with the rest, and now we'll work on tying a D-loop and getting our center shot done. All right, so first step is getting your center shot. Camera's having a hard time focusing on that. And then tying in knocking points. There's my knocking points. I've got them cut. Now I'm going to burn them. Little tip, learned the hard way on this, but many years ago. But always turn your bow facing, sideways if you can when you burn these down. And that way you can run your flame. When you burn these, you can just run your lighter like this and twist. You can just twist this way, and that way you won't burn or cinch your strings that are brand new. So we're going to burn these, and then I'll tie a loop on, and then we'll draw it back and see how it feels. So all right, so finished product on the D-loop. I like a little bit longer D-loop, that's just my personal preference, but there's 2 knocking points, burnt D-loop. Looks really nice. I've got decent movement in there. You don't want too much knock pinch in there, so you should be able to move that up and down just a little bit. Don't want anything too drastic, but that's what you're kind of looking for on a nice looking D-loop. Okay, so now we're going to work on stabilizers, setting the stabilizers up and mounting the sight, which are all pretty easy, just standard stuff. I am going to be running some different weights this year that I'll show you though, so get into that. All right, so she's starting to come together, guys. Looking really nice. Got the sight on there. Run the Excel landslide with the Mathews bridge lock bar. And I've got my stabilizer mounts Already tightened on the bow. So we should be ready to go for stabilizers, which I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be running some different stabilizers this year, different weight system. So I'll show you those to you. So for my stabilizer setup, I'm running Excel Antler Ridge stabilizers. I've got that's a 12 on the back, 12 on the front and a 9 on the back. This is the back bar. But for this year, I'm trying out these Hamsky magnetic weight system. This thing is a really cool system. So that's the 2.2 ounce starter kit. It just threads into the very end of your bar. And then from there, when you get the other weights, this is an 8 ounce weight, you can just magnetically attach it and detach it just like that. So super easy to dial in those stabilizer weights, and you don't have to worry about that coming loose or anything like that. They have lock screws in them, so if you run 8 ounce weights, you should lock those down. So you just thread a Allen key in there, lock those down, so that way they don't go anywhere. But pretty excited about these weight systems. I've run them on my target bows, and it's been an awesome system. It's super easy to dial in your weights for your stabilizer setup. So we'll just start with, I'm gonna run a 4, I'm running like 5, 7, there's like 8 ounces on the front. This will be probably 10, 11, 12 ounces on the back. So we'll start with that, and I'll keep kind of dialing it in from there, but we'll play with that a little bit. But all right, so got my peep in where I like it. I'm just running a Hamsky Raptor peep. I think that's 8 inch size. Shot a few arrows through it just to make sure. One thing I do is I put my tape, I'll put my scale down quite a bit in that 45, 50 yard mark. So that way my peep is centered with the sight at distances that I'm really going to shoot more often than not for hunting. So I always set my peep right around 45 yards. That seems to be the kind of happy medium there. So we're just going to tie this peep in and probably run a few arrows through it in here. Tied the peep in. Got a pretty special way I tie it in. I probably will do a separate video on that when I have more time, but the way I tie it in, that thing isn't going anywhere. So well, there you go. Fully set up, got the peep tied in, everything's looking really good. Just want to run a couple arrows through it fully set up and see how it shoots. I like that. It has been a little while since I've shot a hunting bow. Been shooting the Title a lot at target, but yeah, let me shoot another one that felt pretty good. weird. There's just no residual or anything on this bow. It's just completely dead, which is crazy. The draw cycle, I will say, is just a touch stiffer up front than my Phase 4, but it feels way faster than my Phase 4. And I know it is faster, but I was not expecting. Yeah, I want to shoot another one. But it is a little stiffer up front. But it feels like when it's a little stiffer like that up front, if you're gaining the speed on the back half, I'm okay with that. Yeah. That is a sweet bow. I really like what they did this year. I'm really excited to shoot this at some distance, and yeah, pretty sweet. I can't believe how quiet that bow is. That is crazy to me. There's literally no hand shock, no vibration, or anything that I'm feeling in it. It just feels quick. I mean, it feels a lot quicker than my Phase 4, which is the bow I shot last year. So I gotta shoot one more through it here. But I will say the draw cycle is a little stiffer up front. I do notice that. But this is the first time I've shot this bow with stabilizers, and it just sits. I mean, this bow just sits and holds really, really well. For a 29.5-inch bow, this bow holds extremely well. Dang. Pretty cool. I like it a lot. I want to thank you guys for watching, and if you can find it in your hearts to subscribe, I'm gonna try and pump out a little bit more content. But if you have any questions or suggestions, hit me up, leave a comment. But any like or subscribe that you give me, honestly, is just means the world to me. So thanks, guys. Catch you on the next one.